Hello, friends! Today's story will take you somewhere you don't expect, deep into the heart of the wild, where a quiet miracle unfolded. It's a story of survival, trust, and a bond that defied all odds. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after the video ends. Ready? Let's begin. Beneath the golden hue of the setting sun stretching across the savanna, the silhouette of Old Tao emerged slowly beneath the shadow of an ancient tree quiet, composed like the very forest that had raised him for nearly half a century. To the local people, he wasn't merely a ranger. He was the breath of the forest, a living memory of the wilderness. For nearly 50 years, he had dedicated his life to the African Wildlife Reserve, witnessing countless seasons of rain and drought, lives beginning and ending in silent rhythm. He had once saved a baby elephant that had slipped into a muddy pit during the dry season, had carefully removed snare wires from the leg of a trapped antelope, and had spent sleepless nights lying in ambush to expose poachers who moved like ghosts among the trees. No wife, no children, no parties. He had chosen a solitary life in a modest wooden cabin at the forest's edge where only the wind through the canopy and the calls of night owls kept him company. Yet he never felt lonely. To him, every gibbon's cry, every wing passing above the roof, every animal track on the trail was a familiar greeting from those he held dear. Each morning, he would rise early, brew tea, and watch sunlight pierce through thick layers of mist. He would carefully jot down the tiniest changes in the forest into his old notebook. By evening, he often sat beneath an old acacia tree, gazing into the horizon where once, long ago, a timid little lion cub had sat beside him. That cub had likely grown to become a ruler of some distant land. Tao's life flowed as gently as the wind, but it was etched deeply into every blade of grass, every branch, and every gaze from the creatures of the forest. To nature, he wasn't just a guardian, he was a companion, one who had loved it quietly with all the years he had. 12 years ago, on a blisteringly dry afternoon, Tao first saw Ida white lion cub, small and trembling, caught in a blood-stained steel trap. Its panicked eyes, clear and haunting, locked onto his with a look of desperation, of silent pleading. Tao said nothing. He simply knelt down, his aged hands trembling as they cut away the steel wires, digging into the soft flesh. When the trap was finally removed, his sleeves were soaked with blood, but the lion cub was still breathing faintly, but alive. He brought it back to the station, hidden from the wary eyes of his colleagues, tending to its wounds himself, washing them, covering them with forest herbs, feeding it thin porridge by the spoonful. For 3 straight weeks, he slept on the floor beside the little nest where the cub lay like a father guarding the sleep of a child abandoned in the wild. No name was given, no training enforced, yet between them grew a quiet bond, something beyond logic, felt only by the rhythm of the heart. When it grew strong again, he opened the gate of the enclosure. The lion didn't leave immediately. It stood there for a long while, staring at him, those pale eyes no longer filled with fear, but deep, steady, as though engraving the image of the man who had given it life. Then it turned and walked into the forest. No roar, no farewell, just a breeze passing gently between two beings who had silently let go of one another. From that day on, it never truly left the reserve. They didn't see each other often, but now and then during his late-day patrols, he would catch a glimpse of that white silhouette amid the trees in the distance, once on a hilltop, once by the dry creek, and once right beside the fence where he had been recording data. They never approached. No need to touch, just a look, a silent gaze, as if to say, "I'm still here, and I haven't forgotten." That morning, the ancient forest was still dozing beneath a soft veil of mist. Birds began to chirp faintly in the treetops. Wind brushed against the wooden window frame of the small cabin on the reserve's edge, whispering something gentle and hushed. A patrol officer, as usual, stopped by to deliver a few pouches of medicine and a tin of tea, small gift for old Tao, the ranger who had refused to leave the reserve even long after retirement. But this time there was no answer behind the door. When he gently pushed it open, he froze. Tao lay on his familiar wooden bed, a striped blanket pulled up to his chest. His eyes were closed, his face serene, as if lost in a beautiful dream of the forest. His right hand rested gently on a worn wooden frame, a pencil drawing he had spent many rainy seasons completing. A white lion standing alone in the grasslands, its eyes proud but tinged with the quiet sorrow of a free spirit. On the table, a cup of tea still held warmth, the steam not yet fully gone. The oil lamp by the window still flickered, its tiny flame dancing in the breeze as if trying to hold on to something already slipping away. No note, no final words. Only a silence so gentle, so full it seemed to breathe with the memory of him. No one was by his side when he took his final breath, but everyone knew he had not died alone. He had returned to the forest, to all that was dearest: wild grasses, the amber sunset, and the soft footfalls of wild beasts. Returned to the place where he had given his youth, his heart, and his nameless dreams to nature. The news of Tao's passing spread through the reserve like a gentle breeze. No one was shocked. They had known a man like him wouldn't live forever, but they also knew he would never be forgotten. And within the heart of the forest, the echo of footsteps from a silent guardian still lingered, a man who had chosen to depart this world through the softest sleep, in the embrace of the nature he loved more than himself. 3 days after Tao's simple burial, the reserve sank into a quiet stillness. The base of the old monkey-thorn tree where he now rested was freshly covered in earth. A few wild grasses swayed gently in the wind, like tiny hands waving their final goodbye. People returned to their daily duties, but in every heart remained a nameless emptiness. That night, something strange happened. Motion sensor cameras placed around the burial site meant to monitor the movement of wild animals soon expectedly captured a strange image. Emerging from the deep woods, a white lion appeared, walking slowly over the dew-laden grass. It didn't hunt. It didn't roar. Instead, it stopped before the grave where Tao now lay and stood still, head lowered in quiet reverence. Then, as if performing a solemn ritual, the lion circled the grave once unhurried, undisturbed. The moonlight shimmered on its pale coat, making it look like a spirit returned from the deepest reaches of the ancient forest. Once the circle was complete, it turned and melted back into the darkness, as silently as it had come. At first, the reserve staff thought it was coincidence, but then on the second night, the third. And on every night thereafter, the same vision returned at the same hour, with the same quiet gestures. The white lion never harmed, never hunted near the grave, and never let anyone approach. It came only to keep watch. In a wilderness where survival rules are ruthless, this behavior couldn't be explained by instinct alone. The older rangers began to whisper among themselves. It was the same lion, the one Tao had saved when it was just a cub. It had not forgotten, and now, with the man who gave it life resting beneath the earth, it had come back not to repay a debt, but to fulfill a promise no one else had heard. I will not leave you alone. And so, each night, the grave was guarded not by guns or floodlights, but by the quietest kind of loyalty nature has ever shown mankind. The rangers gathered silently around the monitor, watching again and again the footage the motion cameras recorded each night. Under the moonlight, the image of the white lion appeared hazy yet unmistakable, with every step slow, every gaze directed at the humble stone grave beneath the monkey-thorn tree. The room remained quiet. No one spoke a word, but in their eyes, a wave of emotion rose tight in their chests, impossible to ignore. A young ranger whispered, "It's him, the lion from back then." There was no more doubt. The rare white coat, The faint scar on the hind livery sign matched the lion cub Tao had once rescued over a decade ago. Back then, he had carried it from the edge of the forest, treated every wound, watched over its restless sleep. No one thought it would survive, but it did. And now, with its benefactor gone, it had come back. No one taught it to come. No one showed it the way. Yet, among countless trails in the forest, it found the exact place where Tao was laid to rest every night, at the same hour, never a minute late. A wildlife biologist, after reviewing the video footage, quietly removed his glasses and sighed. This is a behavior never before documented in lions. It's not about territory, it's not about food, it's about memory. Memory and gratitude. Gratitude without words. No roar, no dramatic gestures. Just presence constant, silent, like a lifelong promise quietly kept. The lion didn't need anyone to know what it was doing. Yet somehow, it knew someone here once gave it life. And now, it had returned to guard that person's sleep. Alone in the night forest, it had become the final guardian of a man's rest. In that moment, all boundaries between man and wild seemed to dissolve. All that remained was a love ancient, sacred, and beyond time or species. The story of the white lion returning to the old ranger's grave spread beyond the boundaries of the reserve. There was no media campaign, no viral promotion. It traveled quietly through the forest surveillance clips, through the words of the rangers, through the quiet hearts of nature lovers, even those who had never set foot in a forest. And then people began to arrive. Small groups made their way down the red dirt road, past the thinning trees, to the modest grave beneath the old monkey thorn tree, where Tao now rested. No one said much. Some left wildflowers in silence. Others arranged pebbles in a circle in the way local tribes honor departed souls. Children held their parents' hands, sitting quietly on the dry grass, eyes wide as if hoping to catch a glimpse of the white shape gliding past in the night. They didn't come to see a lion. They came to listen to something unseen, perhaps the soft footsteps circling a grave, perhaps the gentle breath of a soul standing watch over the one who once saved it. No one disturbed the peace. No one crossed the sacred line where the lion visited each night. They simply sat there quietly, as if waiting for something they couldn't name. The strangest thing was, no matter how many nights passed, the white lion never approached a single person. It came only when no one was there. It left in silence, leaving behind no trace except the circle of its paw prints around the grave, and a warmth that lingered in the air like a whisper. People told one another, "It only comes for the one who once gave it life." And perhaps that's true. Among all the strangers, it had never roared, never fled, but it had never stayed. Because it hadn't returned for attention, it didn't do it to be honored. It simply did the one thing its wild heart knew how to do: to honor a man who once placed trembling hands on its wounded body, not for gain, not for science, but simply out of compassion. A bond that needs no explanation, one that cannot be taught. It can only be felt with respect, and a love that transcends species. The story of Mr. Tao and the white lion is not merely a legend whispered through the forest. It is a quiet testament to unconditional compassion and the profound connection between humankind and nature. In a world growing ever louder, where kindness is sometimes mistaken for weakness, he taught us something simple: that compassion doesn't need to be grand. If you place your hand in the right place, at the right time, you can change a life. Not all of us can live in the forest, become a ranger, or rescue a lion. But we can always choose to live more kindly toward the world around us, toward the small creatures, the trees by the roadside, or even a stranger who needs a hand. Modern life sweeps us along too fast, but this story is a gentle reminder. Slow down. Take a moment to hear the wind, the bird song, and the silent whispers nature sends us each day. Because sometimes an anonymous act of kindness today may become a legend for generations. Thank you for joining us for this heartfelt story. If your heart stirred at the bond between a man and a wild soul, join us in spreading something beautiful. Tap the like button if you believe kindness can cross the boundaries of species. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journey that touches the heart, where nature and humanity meet in the most unexpected ways. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe a small act can change an entire destiny? And if this story moved you, share this video with a friend. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to write the next chapter in the journey of love and protection for the natural world.